My mother-in-law crowbarred her way into our home, sold my 10-year vintage key collection for $300, and now my marriage is collapsing. What would you do? It started with a simple refusal to buy her a new phone, but when I came home to find my lock cabinet pried open and hundreds of irreplaceable skeleton keys gone, I called the police. Armed with CCTV and her own confession texts, I watched her walk into handcuffs, only for my wife to beg me to drop the charges and choose her. Mother over me. Now I'm filing for divorce, changing every lock I own, and rebuilding my life as a free man. My crazy mother-in-law stole my vintage key collection, so I called the police and had her arrested. My wife threatened to leave me if I went through with pressing charges, so I filed for divorce myself. My mother-in-law is insanely entitled, and my wife's enabling of her has made our marriage very hard. Recently, Emil came to us demanding a new phone because hers was 2 years old and out of date. She threw a fit when I refused, getting on the floor and pounding her fists against the hardwood. I still refused, so she got up and left, but not before yelling that she'd be getting the phone. I have a collection of vintage skeleton keys worth a few $1,000s, all displayed in a lock cabinet. A few days ago, I came home to find the cabinet forced open and my entire collection gone. CCTV showed MIL prying it open with a crowbar. I called her right away and demanded she return my keys, but she said she'd already sold them at a pawn shop to buy that phone, and blamed me because I wouldn't buy one for her. My wife was on my side, until I said I planned to call the police. She begged me to drop it and even suggested I start a new collection. I refused. Those keys aren't just expensive, they're irreplaceable. I spent 10 years building that collection, but my wife kept telling me to let it go. How did Mile get into the house? My wife unilaterally gave her a key when we moved in. That's why. I eventually called the police. They took my statement about an hour after I dialed the non-emergency line. I had video footage, documentation of every key, and texts from Mill baiting her into a confession. When I demanded she give back my collection, she lolled, said not a chance, and called me a pathetic son-in-law with tacky taste. I made her admit which pawn shop she used and how much she got, $300 for hundreds of keys valued at $2 to $3K. She happily texted me the details, so when the cops arrived, they arrested her without question. The pawn shop handed over all the keys to the police before closing time. A couple of days later, I retrieved everything and stowed it in a secure safe. I inspected each key. Thankfully, they were all there. What a relief. I took time off work and barely slept for 2 days. The cabinet she wrecked is ruined. It'll go to the dump. It wasn't an antique. I paid $50 for it. That $300 payout felt like a punch in the gut. The broker clearly knew the true value. Anyone else hear Mr. Krabs laughing? I half joked. Legally, MIL should have repaid the pawn shop, but my wife paid them back out of our joint account. Mill lied, claiming the keys belonged to her deceased husband. He actually divorced her and left 15 years ago. Mill lives off Social Security and food stamps, holds garage sales for extra cash, and even collects our empty cans for deposit money. She gets around on an electric scooter with a trailer and owns a paid-off house. She wouldn't have money troubles if she wasn't overspending and relying on my wife. My wife and I had a huge fight when she got home. I told her I was done letting her enable that toxic behavior. I said I was changing the locks, banning her mother from the house, and that we needed marriage counseling, or I'd consult a lawyer about separation. I thought my wife would beg me not to, but instead she accused me of being horrible. Packed a suitcase and went to a motel. She looked for me to ask her to stay. I didn't. The next morning, she texted me to bail out her mother and demanded I transfer the money. I said no. She replied, "Wow, Zia." Then she drained a large sum from our joint account, probably bail money, without telling me. When I called the pawn shop, the owner confirmed that she'd repaid them the $300, then banned us both from his store. I can't blame him. I tracked my wife down at that same motel. She was shocked to see me when I knocked on her door. I confronted her about the money. She smugly said, "That's karma," and slammed the door. The next day, I changed the locks. With the landlord's permission, emptied my funds from the joint account, and stopped all automated payments. I left only my initial deposit, enough to keep the account open. From now on, MIL's bail and the pawn repayment are entirely my wife's burden. I consulted 2 divorce lawyers and chose the one who seemed less like she was just here for the paycheck. Papers will be served soon. I loved my wife, but I can't stay married to someone who values her mother over me. We'll split everything cleanly. Our incomes are comparable. She can have her hoarder mom. I won't change my mind. It didn't take long to hire my divorce lawyer, and she's as tough as advertised. She asked if I was sure I wanted to proceed. Once I laid out the evidence, she started the process immediately. Yes, this divorce is going to cost me, but I don't care. I'll rebuild my savings as a free man. I never wanted this rental house. Anyway, I'd have stayed in our old apartment until we could afford a home. Post-divorce, my rent will be much lower. While she bailed out her mother, she even threatened to call the cops on me when I went to see her. I texted that I'd changed the locks. She never checked her phone. When she finally returned and saw my text, she pounded on the doorbell cam, screaming. I watched unseen. When I let her in, she had puffy cheeks, tears, and a cat butt face. I handed her a new key and warned that if she gave one to her mother again, I'd inform the landlord, who's already furious she let MIL in. That was enough compliance. Plus, I'm moving out soon. Mill still denies wrongdoing and plays victim to my wife. She's banned from the house and I don't miss her. The broker threatened never to serve any of us again once he learned what happened. Mill might face lesser charges now that the keys are returned, but I'd like to see her punished in some way. After roughly a week of the silent treatment, my wife broke. She love-bombed me, cooked dinner, popped open drinks, and tried to entice me. I refused, saying I can't trust her food or drink. She cried, insisting it wasn't cheating. I told her I consider putting her mother first a betrayal. She begged for counseling and promised no more Mel move-in. I said it was too late. She admitted she probably would have left me if roles were reversed, then begged me not to divorce. I retreated with video games and cola. She banged on my door until I ignored her. She even tried seduction. Lingerie, aprons, everything. I stonewalled. She gaslit me with, "Am I not good enough?" I replied, "You were, but you're not anymore." She drank herself sick. I locked the door and set up a hidden camera. I found a 1-bedroom apartment available in early mid-March. Rent is cheaper, it's walking distance to work, and I'll finally be able to ride a bike again. I'm taking the queen bed from the guest room since I paid for it and I prefer it. She can keep or sell the rest of the furniture. A few months ago, I anonymously reported MIL as a serious hoarder. Someone suggested notifying the fire marshal, so I did, in anger. Inspectors found rotten garbage, rodent infestations, exposed wiring, roof rot, and black mold. A fire hazard. My wife screamed at me, blaming me for her mother's house being condemned. I reminded her of every reason we're splitting up. MIL demanded my wife pay for cleanup. When my wife said she couldn't afford it, MIL attacked her, scratching and pulling her hair. Mill suffered a heart attack during the assault and died on the spot. An officer separated us. My wife alternated between blaming me and herself. Felt overwhelming guilt. Stress migraines forced me to take leave. Friends assured me it wasn't my fault. MIL was dangerously hoarding. Now I'm left to live with the consequences of standing up for myself and protecting what's mine.